If you're targeting local businesses with your services, then you've probably struggled with identifying businesses that can actually afford your services as well as need it. And this is because employee counts can be pretty hit or miss when determining revenue, especially for local businesses where, I don't know about you guys, but I've worked for some landscaping companies back in the day, and you just end up working weekends, and basically your job is to take care of the most dangerous task that they can find so they don't fall off a roof and throw their back out and basically go bankrupt. So these are kind of hit or miss when it comes to actually being employees, but they might end up listed, and that can be very misleading. So in this video, we're going to quickly go through a flow that'll help you identify whether or not a business has multiple locations, and then also a small flow for how to identify the exact number of locations, which isn't perfect, but will give you a good rough estimate. So this is clay. If you don't know what clay is, then you should probably get used to it, because this is likely going to be the future of outbound and the future of outbound motions. So what are we doing here? Well, this is just a random lead list for an SEO client that I have. And what I decided to do was hop into it because I thought this would be something that could be relevant specifically for SEO. So to start, the initial idea was to identify sitemaps. And when it comes to sitemap URLs, these are going to be the most accurate way of identifying if a business has a certain section on their site, and then if the business is currently doing SEO, most likely because they've actually indexed their website and they have a sitemap from Google. And it's just a free way to identify certain pages on a website and do it accurately at scale. So you can find a blog, you can find out if they have a contact page, you can find out if they have a location page. And basically what we're doing in here is we're just going through and we're setting a certain set of custom parameters to basically filter sites down to specific keywords. So we want to check if they have a sitemap, and from that sitemap, we want to identify if they mention location, locations, and branch. If they have these, they will show up in this list. So you can see a lot of these sites don't even have sitemaps in the first place, which we'll solve for that a little bit later. But just an initial list, guaranteed they have multiple locations pretty well. You can just do this, and then you can take a formula here and you can filter by whether or not they have location or locations in the first two, or in this case, in the third and fourth slash marker, between the third and fourth slash marker, not after, not before, location or locations. And this is just common site structure. So if you look in the top left of clay here, you can see you have slash workspaces, slash blah, blah, blah. A lot of sites will be slash blog, slash topic, whatever. And these are just competent site structures. And typically they follow something pretty formulaic. So this can be a pretty easy way to identify whether or not a business has multiple locations. So cool. We found out if they have multiple locations. What are some of the other things we can do? Well, because we understand that most businesses follow this specific site structure, what we can do is make our AI actors a little bit more accurate in the way that they identify data. So what we did here is we just did a couple merges using formulas, and the normalized URL of this business that includes no slashes or HTTPS : etc. before the actual domain name. From there, we're able to move on to merging location and slash with the website, as well as locations and slash with the website, and feed it into a relatively simple, at the moment, prompt that does not have each location turned on, so that the clay agent can actually go through and try to identify anything that we might have missed. Now, I'll be honest, this isn't perfectly accurate, but from what I've seen, it's accurate within reason. So for instance, on the checks that I did, such as this one, it's able to identify 8 out of 10 of these locations. Why it failed to identify the other ones, your guess is as good as mine, but it could be because we're using GPT 3.5 instead of GPT 4.0. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that this is a bad thing. Being within reason on the number of locations can help you surmise revenue markers and make sure you're outreaching to people that actually have the money to afford your services. And even beyond that, I think it's super relevant from an SEO point of view. If you can find people that have location pages that aren't indexed on Google, that maybe don't have their Google Pixel installed, you can have a pretty significant value offering in your opening email to those individuals in order to segue into a call. You know, offer a one-time lead magnet that's free, that has actual value as a precursor to upselling your actual services. So what would I do in terms of next steps here? I would definitely take the next step now that we have this kind of structure set up to create a simple Octoparse or Zenrose actor that's going to scrape the HTML of the website at scale for relatively cheap, and then have AI take action on the specific text on those web pages, as opposed to having Clayagent basically think for me. Realistically, if you have a repeatable task, you want to take Clayagent out of the equation because you don't want AI making decisions. Instead, what you want for repeatable work is for it to be systematized and automated. And then you can have very specific prompts that take action on the data that you pull, rather than having Clayagent, which is going to go, hey, I don't really know about this web page. Maybe I should click around and go to a different web page, try a different location on the website, and it might pull some finicky data. Whereas if you just have AI taking action on text, HTML text, you can get a much more accurate response. Like if I use GPT 3.5 and it was just AI and not Clayagent, I can almost guarantee I would be able to get to a prompt that pulls 10 every single time from a web page just like this. Or, you know, as you scroll down here, there's a couple that have like a ton, 16 cities, and, you know, be able to actually remove the variance where some of these actually ended up pulling the locations being serviced as opposed to the actual cities, which, you know, over time you continue to hone a prompt and figure out the exact type of prompt through an iterative process that's going to give you your desired output. But yeah, so if you're struggling to contact businesses that actually have money, that are local businesses, this can be a really interesting way to make sure that they have multiple locations and actually niche down your offer and say, hey, I actually only help franchises. My SEO is only for franchises. My website design is only for franchises. I understand that super specific nuanced site structure that you require in order to make sure all of your franchises are getting the attention that they need. But yeah, hope you liked the video.